All right, welcome. So this video is why you're stuck on self-improvement. I'm going to be explaining to you exactly why you keep getting stuck, or why you may have been stuck for multiple months, multiple weeks, and why you can't seem to get back to that level of progress that you were making before. So before we start this video, for any of you guys who are serious on your self-improvement and you want to take it to the next level, go ahead and click the first link in my description. Send me a DM saying, hey man, I want early access to the Academy of Self-Mastery program. All right, I'm creating a community of individuals who are looking to take their self-improvement to the next level, who are serious on their journey and want to progress, want to achieve their goals, and may need more help doing so, or more better education, or want to be surrounded by more people on a similar path. So if that's something you guys are interested in, you can go ahead and click my first link in the description. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So about a year ago, about a year and a half ago, about a year and a half ago, we'll say, halfway through my senior year, I was basically at this point in my self-improvement where I felt like I'd almost perfected it. Not necessarily perfected self-improvement, but I felt like I had finally found my groove. I felt like I had finally found the flow that I needed to just make all the progress, make that build that momentum and make that change and actually like move forward into that new lifestyle that I was creating. But then all of a sudden it seemed like I was almost blocked. I was almost like internally and externally like blocked from those dreams, right? And what happened over time was I kind of slowly started to taper off that momentum that I had started building. And then it got so bad that it got to a point where I basically completely stopped self-improvement, like altogether. I wasn't working on my business anymore. I had basically stopped working on my business. I hadn't been going to the gym. I was smoking weed again, cut the fuck out of that. I just lost my track. Cut where I said, where I was explaining what I stopped doing, basically. So I'm going to start over by saying, I stopped working on my business over there. So I basically completely fell off my self-improvement. I stopped working on my business. I stopped working out in the gym. I stopped doing all of the journaling and meditation. I stopped waking up early and on time. I stopped my morning routine as a result of that. Basically everything just completely fell apart. I wasn't reading any books. I wasn't even watching like real content. I started to watch shorts again. So I wasn't watching like actual educational content. I started watching shorts again. It got really, really bad, really rough. And this whole time I knew self-improvement was my thing. I wanted to be on this journey. I wanted to be building my business. I wanted to be doing all these things, but I couldn't seem to fight against that suppression of my energy, right? I couldn't fight against that. It was almost like an internal state of losing touch with that version of myself. And by losing touch with that, I started to really fall apart in my real life. My self-improvement just fell apart and collapsed. And so what happened was I realized that I didn't know why I was doing any of it. And that's why I'd stopped. I didn't have a clue why I was doing any of it. I didn't know what I really wanted. I didn't have goals. I didn't have a way to track how much progress I was making towards them. I didn't know if I was even going in the right direction. I didn't know if I was even progressing towards those goals. And so that left me in this place of realizing that my brain had almost decided that there was no point to this anymore and just gave up. And I realized that the way to fix it was I needed to create a plan. I needed to create an actual goal. I needed something that I actually wanted to work towards in order to motivate me to do the work. I couldn't just work because it was what I was supposed to do without an actual reason for it being what I was supposed to do, right? I couldn't tell myself why I needed to work. I couldn't tell myself why I needed to wake up early. I couldn't tell myself why I needed to be in the gym. So because I couldn't define why I was there, because I didn't have clear enough goals, I just fell off completely. I completely forgot about it for a period of time. And this period of time lasted about 6 months. And then after those 6 months, what happened was I set my new goals for my business, and I decided to lock in on those goals and completely dedicate myself towards those goals. And that meant picking back up my morning routine, picking back up the self-improvement habits, going to the gym again, and working out again, working on my training again that I'd put off for a year and a half. Starting to work on all of these things again, starting to bring it all back together and use that as a way of working towards my goal of achieving, the income of my business and creating what I'm trying to create within my business. So because I had set a clear goal, a reason why I was doing all of it, it made it much easier to do so. And so when I see somebody who is struggling on their self-improvement, when somebody is asking, well, how do I get unstuck? Have you even set real goals? Right? Have you actually set real goals? And by real goals, I don't mean like I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be ripped, I'm going to be whatever. But actually sat there and broken down what rich means to you. I'm going to be rich. Well, I'm going to be rich but that means that I need to be making this X number of money is what I define as rich, right? So when you say rich, you have to define what that means. Rich to a poor person could be 50 grand. Rich to somebody else might be $1 million. Rich to somebody else might be $1 billion, right? Rich is just like, it's a loose description, right? You don't want a loose description. You want a clear, tangible goal. So it's not, I want to be rich. It's, I want to make $50K a month. I want to make $100K a month, whatever that may be. So you have to define the goal clearly, and it has to be something you can actually work towards. You can't be broke and say, I'm going to make $1 million a month and expect to bridge that gap. But if you want to get to $1 million a month, you could break it down as my next tangible goal is 10K a month. My next tangible goal is to create a business, and then 10K a month, and then 50, and then 100, and then maybe 200 and 500 and so on and so forth, right? You need to have a clear goal, a tangible goal that you can work towards. Otherwise, you won't be able to stay committed, right? Your brain won't understand why you're doing the thing. And the other thing is, do you have a plan in place, right? So if you do have a goal, let's say you do actually have a goal and it's clearly defined, and I just looked like an idiot calling you out on your goal, and you're like, but I literally got it right here written down. It's there. I got goals. That's not my problem. But do you have a plan? Do you actually have an actionable process and plan that you can follow through on in order to achieve that goal? Obviously, you don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but do you at least have an idea of what your plan is going to be, what you're going to execute? And of course, it's going to change and adapt as you do so. But if you don't have a plan, what are you taking action on, right? If you don't actually know what you're going to do, how are you going to take action? So do you even have a plan? Because if you don't have a plan, how do you expect to consistently take action? How do you expect to be able to stay dedicated? How do you expect to be able to stay committed? How do you expect to be able to build up the repetition to make this automatic for you? How do you expect to progress towards that goal if you don't know how you're going to do so, right? And the next thing is, are you free from distractions, right? You have your goal, you have your plan, but you're not doing it, are you? You're stuck on your self-improvement. You feel like you can't progress. You feel like you can't move forward. You feel like you can't get back on the path. Are you free from distractions though? You're not. There's no way you're free from distractions, because if you weren't distracted to any degree, nothing outside was distracting you, your attention would be focused on this plan and goal that you have in place already. So you either don't have a goal at all, or you may have a goal but no plan. And if you have those two things but you're distracted, you'll never actually be able to take action on the plan and get to the goal as a result of that. So what does this mean? This means that the reason why I believe you're stuck on your self-improvement has nothing to do with, all of these other habits, all of identity, mindset, all of these things. Yes, they're important, but in reality, it's you keep getting stuck and you keep finding yourself in this place where you can't move forward because you need to have a goal and you need to be focused on that goal. You need to have a plan and you need to be executing on that plan, and you need to be not distracting yourself throughout. So I'm going to explain to you exactly how momentum works, all right? And this is going to help give you an idea of why you need to have these things in place, why you can't be getting distracted, and why you keep finding yourself stuck on your path, all right? So the building process of momentum, right? You're building the momentum. This means you're putting in extraordinary amounts of effort to start to move the needle forward, to start to stack the blocks. If you think of like a snowball rolling down the hill, it's like you're packing the first snowball to start rolling down the hill. Or well, rather, you've packed the snowball and you just sent it down the hill, and so it's building this momentum, right? Then as it gets into building this momentum, it accelerates. Right, so a good way to actually do this is a car. You think of a car. When you step on the gas, what happens? Your engine starts building up energy. That's why the engine revs. It's building energy, right? It's generating energy and force. And then you accelerate, right? That's the acceleration process. So that's when you start to actually apply that force to the ground beneath you to move that car forward, or the car does so, rather. Applies that force in order to move forward. And then maintaining is when you can now lift off the gas a little bit and just hold it slightly to maintain the speed you've now built. Right, so there's building, you build up and generate the energy, and then you apply that energy to generate acceleration, right? So you then apply the energy and create and generate acceleration, accelerate. And then once you've accelerated to the speed that you want or the level that you want, then you maintain. Then you relax slightly and you maintain. Or you decide you're going to move further forward, you start the process over. So from where you are maintaining, you then step on the gas a little bit more, build up that energy, generate that energy by revving the engine, and then the car applies that energy and that force to the ground beneath you that pushes you forward and helps to accelerate you to the speed you want to go. And then again, you go back to maintaining. The only issue is when you are building energy, but then you become distracted, you start over, right? So most people are only getting so far as building the energy and generating the force, but then they never apply it to anything. And so it either stays within them or it gets released through other vices. And that's why a lot of people have tension, stress, anxiety, and also why a lot of people can't actually work towards their goals because they only get as far as building the momentum. Also why people have so many vices, because we need these vices in order to suppress the energy trying to escape, right? Because the energy is trying to escape. We're trying to finish the process. We need to build energy. Then after we've built the energy, we need to apply it and put that force into whatever it is we're doing. So if it's my business, I want to make 10K a month in my business. Well, I'm building and generating the energy by creating the content, by writing the scripts, by learning as much as I possibly can. And then I'm accelerating it by consistently and continuously getting out content and maybe progressing my content style and maybe releasing a product, right? And then I can maintain by, as I bring all that together and as I've accelerated. So building is essentially doing the work. So building is the uploads, building is the content, building is writing the scripts, building is creating the courses and the programs. Acceleration is the progress that's made by continuously maintaining that state of built up energy and then applying that energy. So that would look like the progression of my channel to where it is now to 1K subscribers, 10K subscribers, so on and so forth. Acceleration, that would be acceleration. And then maintaining is when I can let off the gas and just keep a steady flow, right? Keep a steady state. The problem is distraction completely disrupts this process. So if I build the energy, which means create a bunch of content, but then I get distracted, then I don't have the ability to accelerate and then therefore make the progress. So you can't allow yourself to become distracted during this process. That is why your momentum stops at a certain point. And that is why you seem to find yourself stuck on your goals so much, because every time you get distracted, every time you stop that momentum, you start over from scratch. And so you get back to a place where you're still or stagnant. And what happens is you basically get burnt out from the revving of your engine. Think if you went into neutral and just revved the shit out of your engine for like an hour straight. It's going to fuck it up, obviously. But the same thing is essentially happening for you, right? You are revving your engine, building up all this energy and trying to move forward, and then you kind of like taper back a little bit, and then you completely distract yourself and cut off that process of building that momentum and generating that momentum. And so how do you actually break out of the stagnancy, right? What do you do to actually break out of this state of stagnancy? If you've been distracted and getting yourself stuck and you've entered this state of stagnancy where you've been still for so long that it feels way harder to generate that same amount of momentum, the first thing that I have for this is movement of any kind, right? Movement of any kind will be helpful. If you just move your body to any degree, in any capacity, it will absolutely help you, right? I didn't believe that this was true at first. I was like, all right, yeah, like I need to work on these things that are really, really important, but at the same time, like, I don't really want to work on them. I don't feel like I have the capacity. I feel like all of these things in my life are just fucked up, and I can't like focus on a video right now because I don't feel like I'm going to bring the right energy or whatever. What I did when I was in the States like this is I just get my body moving, and just by getting my body moving, I went from where I was like one of the worst places of my entire life to now one of the best, right? Now I feel like I'm the healthiest, the most fit, most in shape. My channel, growth-wise, we aren't doing too great, but that's because I just started uploading again, and I screwed myself over by taking a break. But if you look at my uploads, I've been consistent. These videos are some of the best I've ever made. I have like projects that I've been building out for YouTube. I have a couple videos coming for YouTube, and like I have my project for the Academy of Self-Mastery. Like all of these things are coming together now. And it's just because I started by telling myself I don't need to do all the work. I don't need to take it all on at once. I just need to move my body. I just need to get moving. I just need to do something. And I started there. And I literally just started there. I started by going back to the gym. I started by skateboarding as much as I could. I started by like going out and doing sports that I found were fun. And just by getting more movement in, I got my mind to a place where I was able to like start to progress back to getting back on my self-improvement, getting back consistent with my channel, starting to get more ideas for my YouTube, and that inspired me to then start working on that stuff again. And so the next thing is exercise, right? Exercise to the same degree is important, but when I say move your body of any kind, I mean like literally just move your body, right? Any type of movement, anything, even the lightest form. Then when I say exercise, I do mean with more intensity. So exercise, like really train with intensity, because when you do, it makes you feel so much fuller. It makes you feel so much stronger, so much more capable. You have so much more energy that you can generate. Like I was talking about with momentum. When you do things like exercising consistently, well, you can generate and build that energy way faster, and you can build way more of it. And so when you then go to apply it to acceleration, it goes way further than it would if you weren't exercising. But exercise with intensity will help you get to a place where you no longer get stuck, because as soon as you find yourself procrastinating, you can help to identify it and work through it. And meditation actually helps with this as well. Meditating consistently helps you to be aware of the blockage when it comes up, instead of being just aware of the fact that you're blocked, right? Just being aware of the fact that you're stuck isn't enough to get out. You need to be aware of the actual internal mechanisms behind it, because there is something in your brain actually blocking you, and that's why you feel like you're stuck. So if you can learn to identify and see these things, then that can help you a lot. And just exercising by itself will help you to get energy out, get energy moving, and that will help you to then move forward to the next thing. And obviously the idea is you want to get back on self-improvement full time, but you need to progress slowly, right? So just start by exercising, and exercise with some intensity, and then come home. And once you come home from the gym, it's like this is a time where you're relaxed, your mind is clear, you can focus, and you can really think about what to do next, and you can really think about what your next move should be. My recommendation would be to journal for anybody who doesn't really know what they're doing here, or sit down and create like a monk mode type plan or protocol if that's where you're at. If you don't think you could handle one of those, obviously just come home and journal and write and really identify why you're stuck, what's keeping you stuck. Because once you can identify that, right, if you can actually identify the internal blockage, the thing that is blocking you from moving forward, identify why you're stuck, right? Is it your goals? Is it the lack of a plan? Do you not have clarity on those two things? Or are you always distracted? Or is it something completely different? Is it just that your brain doesn't want to let you do it, right? Is it just that you're lazy? Is it just, is that you don't feel like you have the time? Whatever it may be, if you journal about it and you identify it very clearly, well, then you can actually figure out how to fix it. You can find a replacement for that thing. If you have a distraction, let's say you watch social media a lot. Well, if you have that kind of a distraction and that's what's keeping you stuck, well, you can just replace it. You can replace scrolling on your phone with reading a book, or working on your business, right? The more engaged you are throughout the day, the more energy you have. So those who say they're too tired to work on their business at a certain time and need to rest and relax by scrolling on their phone, they're lying to themselves. The reason they don't have energy is because they spend their time being sedentary and lazy and on their phones, right? So the more you engage in work, the more energy you have. So don't lie to yourself thinking you need like a break of some kind, because that's why you get stuck. You get stuck in these break periods, right? The only breaks you need are just meditation. If you do anything more than sitting in a chair and just being aware of your own body when you're resting, you're not resting and you're lying to yourself. If you're playing video games while relaxing, you're lying to yourself. You're not relaxing for shit. The reality of it is, when you are engaged in work, you feel more effortful, and therefore your body produces more energy. And so you feel like you have more energy when you're doing this on a consistent basis. And so you're stuck because you don't feel like you have energy, but you actually do. It's just that it's gotten to a point where it's stagnant because you've been stagnant. So you just need to get your energy moving again. That's why I mentioned movement and exercise, but you just need to get your energy moving again. But then you just need to keep it moving, right? So you've worked, right? You've done the work for the day. I want to rest. Well, rest can look like a quick meditation and a little journaling session. And then you can go and relax and read a book before eating and going to the gym, right? That's a relaxing afternoon. Except maybe the gym, right? If you need to really, really rest, maybe skip the gym and just keep reading. You know what I mean? So that's a really relaxing afternoon. That's going to really help you to relax. But it's going to keep you in the self-improvement flow. You're not going to block your momentum and cut it off at that point, right? And that's the key. You're not blocking and cutting off momentum, but you're actually like generating it and fully maintaining that flow, right? Maintaining that state. And so that's how you can get out of the state of being stuck, is just by realizing that you don't need to stop moving. When you stop moving, that's what's bad, right? You can rest and recover without completely stopping what you're doing. Does that make sense? But when you stop, that's why you get into these states of stagnancy and getting into these ruts, is because you stop for a period and then you kind of like ease into that state until you eventually go stagnant. So that is all I have for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. If it was, please leave a like. And if you want to see more like it, go ahead and click the subscribe button. And for those of you who are serious on your self-improvement and you want to take it to the next level, or you just need better education on how to do so, if you want in-depth, in-detail courses on all topics regarding self-improvement, like routine mastery, dopamine detoxing, mental health, fitness and diet, also sexual transmutation will be coming out soon. If you want deep education on all of these topics, go ahead and click that first link in the description to send me a DM about early access to the Academy of Self-Mastery. But that is all that I have for you guys in this video, and I really do hope you enjoyed. But that's all for me, and I'm out of here. Peace.